Hi, I'm James. I'm a foot and ankle specialist, and today I'm going to talk you through my top 3 picks of best shoes for posterior tibial tendonitis, also known as posterior tibial tendinopathy or posterior tibial tendon dysfunction. Now, all information in this video is for educational purposes only, and it shouldn't be used as medical advice. Each shoe serves a different purpose in terms of the type of stability and support that it can provide to the posterior tibial tendon, and I'll talk you through each shoe in terms of how it feels underfoot, what activities they're more beneficial for, and hopefully by the end of the video you have a better idea of which shoe may work best. So first of all, we're going to start off with the ASICS Gel Kayano 31. It's a Maximal cushioned stability shoe. So it's got 40 mils of cushioning in the rear foot, 30 in the forefoot, giving you a 10 mil difference from the back to the front of the shoe. A more moderate stability shoe in the ASICS range is the ASICS GT 2000 version 13. So first of all, the 10 mil drop creates a slight elevation on your heel. That serves in terms of reducing the amount of tension under the posterior tibial tendon. It provides stability via the 4D guidance system, which is unique to ASICS. So it does this by having a sidewall on the inner aspect, on the outer aspect of the shoe that comes up from the midsole, helps to cradle your heel, tries to give it support as you initiate heel contact and transition through to the midfoot during the gait cycle. It's got a really broad base of support underneath the forefoot that doesn't narrow too much under the midfoot, again increasing the amount of contact you have with the ground, providing extra stability, and it has some nice sole flare where the sole comes out wider than where your foot sits in the bed of the shoe, again increasing the stability of the shoe. Then it has a 4D guidance tab, so you can see this little colored tab here that sits in the midsole. So it is a more resilient type of cushioning compared to the other cushioning within the shoe. So that means that as you apply pressure to it, it's harder to compress and typically pushes your foot back out again. So as you shake contact with the ground, and if you struggle with pronation moments, then this tab pushes you back out. The sole flare on the outside of the shoe stops you from going too far out and keeps you centered in the shoe. So this tab, you can really feel it underneath your foot, pressing up into the medial arch of your foot. That helps elevate the navicular bone where the posterior tibial tendon attaches to and can provide symptom relief. It's complemented by a nice wide base of support and a nice wide toe box so your toes can splay. It's a true to size fit, so you don't need to think about too much about getting a longer size or a bigger size. And it's got a nice gusseted padded tongue, so it's stitched in so it doesn't slip from side to side, and it's got a really luxurious padded heel counter that's nice and stiff. Again, it sucks your foot in, keeps your foot nice and stable via the heel counter and the side walls. So it's an excellent maximal cushion, maximum stability shoe, and it's a shoe that we'd recommend to patients with mild to severe posterior tibial tendon issues, and it's super comfortable. But the only thing to note is if you don't like a shoe that's too cushioned, too padded, you may not enjoy it. Then the next shoe that we have is the Adrenaline GTS 24. So this is a firmer shoe, so the cushioning, you don't sink into it as much, you get a bit more responsiveness, so it tends to push you back, gives you a bit more energy return. So if you're looking for a shoe that gives you more energy return when you walk or when you run, this is potentially a shoe for you. It's got 35 millimeters of cushioning in the rear foot, 23 in the forefoot, giving you a 12 mil drop, so slightly higher drop to the 10 mils that you get in the ASICS Gel Kayano, and so that in turn, as we discussed, helps to offload the posterior tibial tendon. It provides support in a different way. Yes, it has a nice broad base of support and some sole flare that isn't as prominent as what you get in the Kayano, but it has a much more prominent medial arch support. So you can see this tab that runs from the heel all the way to the end of the midfoot. Again, it has a more resilient type of foam underneath, so it's the go-to support element of stability in the Brooks range. This complements the foot by, again, as your foot moves inward, it helps to provide resistance and push your foot back out again. By having it from the heel to the midfoot, it increases the amount of stability that you feel underneath, and you can feel this on your foot as it moves inward. You can feel it pushing up into your foot. So it's a bit more prominent than what you get in the Kayano. Some people might not enjoy that sensation of pushing up under the arch of the foot, and therefore they might prefer the Kayano, but this provides a little bit more stability, and because the cushion's a bit firmer, you don't sink into it as much, and that contributes to adding extra elements of stability. On top, it's got a relatively broad forefoot. It's not as wide in the normal fit as you get in the Kayano. The Kayano does come in wide, but the Adrenaline comes in a narrow normal, wide and extra wide, and it's got a huge variety of lengths. It's a true to size fit, so no issues there. It's nice and padded on top as well. It's got nice kind of padded laces, which helps with the lockdown, and nice padding around the heel counter that's nice and stiff as well, again increasing that amount of stability you get on the shoe. So an excellent shoe overall for walking, for running at faster paces, gives you that bit more energy return, a bit more responsiveness than you get in the Kayano, and has a bit more stability compared to what you get in the Kayano. Then finally we have the New Balance 860 V14. Now this has completely changed the game for us in terms of the amount of support that it provides. It's the only shoe on the market that provides a medial wedge, so that's where it tilts your ankle slightly, so it adds extra stability to the medial ankle, so the inner aspect of your ankle, but also shifts forces away towards the outer ankle. Now there are some downsides to that. If you have a history of ankle instability, ankle sprains, you may struggle with this shoe, as it can increase the likelihood of you spraining your ankle. If you've got no history with that but you have posterior tibial tendon pain, this can be an excellent option. So it does this by having this green foam on the base, a plastic clip that runs between the two foams, and then this white foam on top. So the white foam is nice and soft, it compresses easily, it's the Fresh Foam X cushioning that New Balance specialise in, and then underneath you've got a really dense, resilient foam that's really hard to compress, similar to what we talked about in the Brooks and in the Kayano, but this runs from the heel all the way up to the forefoot, and you can see it's much thicker here on the inside than it is on the outside of the shoe, so therefore creating that slight tilt of your foot sitting in the footbed. It reduces as we move down to the forefoot, but it's still present, so it just keeps your foot slightly tilted throughout the gait cycle. It's got a really broad base of support, not as much sole flare as what you get in some of the other shoes. It's got a super wide toe box, so loads and loads of space in there for your foot. No issues if you've got other conditions like Morton's neuroma, metatarsalgia, bunion pain. It's a true to size fit. It's got an engineered mesh on top that's nice and plush and comfortable, and it's got a nice gusseted tongue as well, alongside some padding around the heel counter. Not as padded as what you get in the Kayano, but still plenty of support there. It's got a moderately stiff heel counter, so you may enjoy that a little bit more if you've got conditions like Hagen's deformity, as it won't compress it as much, whereas you've got really high stability in something like the Adrenaline GTS. So this shoe is most likely to be effective for helping with posterior tibial tendon pain. It's never guaranteed, it's always just part of the puzzle, but it can have an influence on how your foot moves, and therefore have an influence on your symptoms. But it does come with some caveats in terms of it can increase the likelihood of putting extra pressure on the outside of your foot for ankle sprains. If you've got any issues with perineal tendonitis, you may not enjoy it as well. So it's an excellent maximal cushion stability shoe. Cushion's a little bit softer than what you get in the GTS, but the softest is in the Kayano. So you've got three shoes that provide completely different types of support, different levels of support, and different types of cushioning. It's really important to consider that shoes only play part of the puzzle in this. We've got videos on exercises and taping that can also be helpful. All of this is just educational advice. We'd always promote you to speak to a medical practitioner, get an accurate diagnosis, and get a graded treatment plan, as that tends to be what makes the most difference. Shoes can be helpful in the grand scheme of things, but it's only part of the puzzle. If you've got any questions on these shoes, please leave them in the comment section below. We've got links to all three shoes in the description as well. If you purchase the shoes through the links, it helps fund the channel without affecting the price of the shoes. If you opt to buy the shoes elsewhere, then just liking, subscribing or sharing the video really makes a big difference to our channel. Thank you very much for watching.